All right, what's going on, everybody? Today we have a patch. Patch dropped last night. I stayed up real late to play, but I went to bed before it came out. So here we are. Get your coffee, get your tea. Let's read some notes. So since I'm a big name Elden Ring content creator, pillar of the Morningstar community, I'm here to read these patch notes for you, and I hope you enjoy it. But to summarize, we have major changes for the patch: sorceries, incantations, weapon skills, and bug fixes. This was on all platforms, and I believe it should be live on all platforms now. They added an option to turn the camera auto rotate function on or off, which is kind of cool. Added some event phases for the NPC. Patches are a good friend. So as for major balance adjustments, they increased Colossal Sword and Colossal Weapon attack speed, lowered their recovery time, and increased the two-hand damage of all of them. And that doesn't include jump attacks for both of those changes. So they increased the physical block rate and guard boost of the sword, the Colossal Sword, Colossal Weapons, Great Sword, Great Hammer, Great Axe, Great Spear, and Halberd weapons. Pretty sick, although I am not blocking with any of those weapons. Cool changes though. They increased the damage of the Grafted Blade Greatsword and the Devourer's Scepter. Both great. Don't use either of the weapons. I like the changes though. They decreased the scaling of status effect buildup from spells, incantations of the Albinaric Staff and Dragon Communion Seal. Increased the effect of the Great Shield Talisman for weapons with high block rate. That is huge. So that's addressing the fingerprint shield sort of. I wouldn't say it's an exploit. It's not a glitch. It's nothing like that. It's just a build that got out of hand. They shortened the length of the Madness Afflicted animation. Also huge. That's amazing. Lowered the speed of Madness build-up recovery. Okay. So on one hand, they shortened the length of the stun animation, and on the other, they lower the speed in which Madness build-up depletes from your character. That's cool. I like that method of balance where they buff one thing and sort of nerf another, nerf and buff kind of in the same area, so nothing gets too, thrown in the trash and nothing goes too wild in another way. In addition to that, they slightly increased FP and stamina growth rates at lower levels, and that's kind of interesting. So for that specifically, it looks like you're gonna have to level up, activate Godric's Great Rune, or re-equip any armor, talisman, or anything that grants bonus to your stats for you to see that in your character. But new characters don't have to do that. All right, so now we're getting into the interesting stuff here. Sorceries and incantations. These are all buffs in which they're calling upward adjustments. A lot of these abilities are getting increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. I'm just going to rip through them here. Ones of note that I like to see. So first off, Gavel, as well as Shatter Earth, Rock Blaster here. They all have this little tag at the end saying allows caster to more easily withstand enemies' attack while casting. You'll see that a lot in this list here. It's essentially just adding more poise, more active poise, or I think it's called active poise, as you're casting these abilities. So, somebody can't just walk up to you and sneeze on you and knock you out of the casting of a giant magic gavel. Like, come on, man. I love to see that. Great changes right there. Roiling Magma, though, increased cast speed and decreased time until magma explodes. That's cool. I'll have to play around with these magma abilities, but right now I'm not using any sort of sorceries. It's all incantations, so that's a bit hard for me to slot in there. Briars of Sin and Briars of Punishment both have increased blood loss build up on enemies, so blood magic is getting buffed. Aspect of the Crucible Tail and Horns both got buffed. So Horns specifically got an increased cast speed, as well as the increased distance traveled when not charged, making it easier to flinch enemies when charged, which is great. Discus of Light, Triple Rings of Light, and Radagon's Rings of Light all got buffed. I haven't played around with these holy spells much, but it looks like everything is just kind of getting a nice little buff, either decreasing stamina cost, increasing cast speed and decreasing recovery time. Those seem to be going across the board for a lot of spells and incantations. As for Lightning Strike, that's exactly what it got. Hone Bolt, increased cast speed, decreased recovery time. Those are going to be more of a pain, but that's That's okay. Lanciax's Glaive, Fortisax's Lightning Spear, Frozen Lightning Spear, they all got the same buff, except for Frozen Lightning Spear did not get any decreased FP cost, although they all got increased cast speed, decreased recovery time, as well as that poise buff that we were talking about before. So a lot of those longer cast time abilities are getting a poise buff, which is pretty nice in my opinion. Okay, now we're getting into some of the incantations that I actually use in my current build. So O Flame is getting an increased damage. Cool. Giant's Flame Take Thee is getting a decreased stamina cost. I kind of wish we got a little bit more here, maybe a decreased FP cost. You know what? I'll take what I can get. This ability is probably the best fire ability there is right now in my eyes. Although, as with most spells, it's still just so easy to dodge. All right, Flame of the Fell God, decreased FP cost and increased damage. I don't use it, but it's cool. Whirl o' Flame, increased damage and decreased recovery time. I don't think this buff is going to make any sort of difference. The increased damage is nice. Decreased recovery time, sure, it's nice, but I don't really think this is going to do much, in all honesty. I think the only thing that would make this ability better is a much faster cast speed. All right, Burn o' Flame is getting an increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. That's kind of interesting. I might have to play around with that ability, although the FP cost might be a little high for my character. Black Flame, increased damage, and it can break enemies' guard more easily. Cool. Unendurable Frenzy is getting increased cast speed, decreased recovery time, and decreases the random nature of the projectile's range, but increases the madness buildup on enemies. So that's getting a buff and just an overall tweak. Inescapable Frenzy, increased cast speed, is terrifying, but you know, we're just gonna have to deal with it. So those are all the buffs for Sorceries and Incantations. Let's take a drink of some coffee and move on. Upward and downward adjustments. Oh, no spoilers, no spoilers. Upward and downward adjustments. Adula's Moonblade decreases the power of a single cast and improved performance so that the blades and frost hit more consistently and continuously. Increases cast speed at lower dexterity. What does continuously mean there? Flame Fall Upon Them. Decrease the damage of a single cast and improve the performance so that it hits enemies multiple times. That could be crazy. That could be I'm calling it right here. This could be a crazy change. This specifically. So improve the performance so that it hits the enemy multiple times. If that is uncapped, because this thing throws like 8 fireballs, if not more. If that's uncapped, that's insane. Because that could do like 700 up to 900 damage if you hit them with every single fireball if they're right up in your face. Say I'm running away from a group of people and they funnel into a stairwell and I cast this, turn around and throw it at them. If one person is right up in my face and I shotgun them with all of the blasts, that could just instantly kill somebody. That could be huge. I am very, very curious about that. Hal of Shabriri, I'm gonna say that wrong every time. Decrease the madness buildup on the enemy and increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. So that's like a half and half here completely. That's cool. As for downward adjustments here, we have Swarm of Flies, decrease the blood loss buildup, Flame of the Frenzy, decreased madness buildup, and Frenzied Burst, decreased madness buildup. Cool. So 2 of the main offenders when it comes to frenzy madness buildup have been adjusted. Swarm of Flies, I couldn't really care about that. You just dodge through the flies. They're not really a big deal. Honestly, I think that kind of just completely gimps this spell. All right, now getting into some more of the fun stuff here. So we have weapon skills, upward adjustments. These are all buffs once again. Lion's Claw getting a buff. Kick is getting a buff. That's funny. Horalu Earthshaker, increased cast speed, increased cast speed on follow-up input, and decreased recovery time. That's cool. Oh, same thing with Troll's Roar. So it's getting the increased cast speed on the follow-up input, increased distance travel. Giant's Hunt is getting a decreased recovery time. Ooh, that's scary. Storm Assault, decreased recovery time. Carrion Greatsword, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Increased the damage when charged and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Same thing with Carrion Grandeur. Flaming Strike, increase the travel distance of a stepping cleave in a strong attack. Ooh, I think that means that follow-up attack. Increase the travel distance. That's cool. Black Flame Tornado, added hitbox to the weapon. Added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Woo, woo, woo. All right, this is changing everything up. My cat needs my attention. He requires my attention. Hey, buddy. My cat's so cute. All right, back to this. How do you say this? Eoshad's Dancing Blade. Increased travel speed, or travel distance, sorry. Added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Cool. Unblockable Blade, increased cast speed. Alabaster Lord's Pull, increased cast speed, decreased recovery time, added a window to roll. Established Order, decreased recovery time and increased cast speed on follow-up input. Increased damage, made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Moonlight Greatsword, decreased FP cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Increased frost buildup effect during the skill duration. Okay, decent buffs. I still wish you didn't have to power up the weapon for it to be good, essentially. Queen's Black Flame, increased cast speed and added a window to roll. So it seems like they're doing that for a lot of these weapon arts where you were stuck in this massive animation, but now they're adding a window to roll, which is pretty sweet. Frenzy Flame Thrust. Decreased FP cost, decreased recovery time, decreased madness buildup on self. Okay. Sea of Magma, attack speed, recovery time, added a window to roll. Same thing with Flame Dance, although it is decreased stamina cost and recovery time. Honestly, all of these buffs are great so far. I like to see it. Upward and downward, Thundercloud form. So that's on the Bolt of Grandsax, or no? That's a different weapon. Either way, Thundercloud form, Thunderclown. Decreased damage when activated with a short button press. Interesting. All right, so after all that, there is no nerfs to Moonveil, Rivers of Blood, and Bloodhound Step. Although the two katanas, I'm not too worried about in all honesty. Bloodhound Step is the only thing that I think might need some looking at in the future. But with all these changes here, I'm really happy with all the changes, for one. And I mean, we're just gonna have to see how it plays out. I like their method of pretty much just buffing everything and only giving nerfs to a couple things here and there. Like we saw, the only actual nerfs were those 3 incantations, and that's pretty much it, really. I mean, those major 3, the nerfs to the Great Shield Talisman was great. Otherwise, we're looking pretty good here. As for bug fixes, there's a couple here. So fixed a bug where the damage of Inescapable Frenzy was affected by the right hand weapon. So that's pretty good. That's gonna downscale that, I hope. So maybe it just won't instantly kill you when you get grabbed, but that's kind of the trade-off of that ability anyways. Now, this one here, it intrigues me. It says fixed a bug where the damage of weapon arts, Carrion Retaliation, was increased by weapon and status, and the effect was not displayed correctly during the online multiplayer. Before this patch, Carrion Retaliation, you could trigger it off of your own spells in multiplayer, and it would upscale the damage insanely, as well as the enemies in the game would not see it above your head. You could hear them cast it and everything, so you'd know, but it wouldn't show them. So this also says, and the effect was not displayed correctly during online multiplayer. So I'm hoping this addresses that. It's hard to tell by the language used here because fixed a bug where the damage of the weapon arts was increased. So I'm assuming that it's now decreased, as well as the effect wasn't displayed correctly. So I'm hoping that's not just talking about the damage numbers, more so talking about the effect above the player's head. We'll just have to see. I'm positive that that is fixing that issue. We'll just have to actually see. Fixed a bug where the animation of blood loss and frostbite was bigger than originally planned. That's kind of interesting. I never really noticed. Otherwise, I think the only thing that really is interesting here is down here at the very bottom where it says text fix. I mean, otherwise it's pretty good. There's nothing else really of note in this patch here. Increased online multiplayer stability. Hopefully that is very evident as well. We'll just have to play and figure it out. I know I have some footage of the previous patch that I'm working on putting out, so you'll be seeing that pretty soon. As for this patch, I believe that's it. We are on patch 1.04 now. I am excited to get in there and to mess around, especially with Flame Fall Upon Them. That's gonna be fun. I just might need to respec into some more mind so I can actually sling some fireballs. But as for now, I hope you all enjoyed reading these patch notes with me. I hope you can all get out there and test some things out, put some Moonveil and Rivers of Blood users in their place, and just keep having fun with the game as I am. So as always, do that thing, do that like thing, do that comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you all, and I will catch you in the next video. See you later.